Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another edition of Conn and the Stick. I am your host, Justin Connolly, with my co-host, Nick Smith, the Stick. Last week we did the NFC South, our favorite division, and now we go to a division really where I think it's really up in the air, honestly. And this is the most unpredictable division with three teams. We'll talk about the one team that's really it's not so much. It's pretty predictable what's going to happen with them. But before I want to start, I did a social experiment on Instagram yesterday just to see where everyone's allegiance lies when it comes to our followers and what their favorite NFL team is. And while out of 200 people that looked at it, I only got about 20, 25 responses, which, it's typical. I mean, people just flip through it. But it seemed pretty split between the Giants and the Jets with who is the favorite out of all of them. But it was really, I find it interesting that the fact that most of my followers are in the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. How you get some people that are who are Ravens fans, and you get some that are Dolphins fans like myself. Bears came up, Denver Broncos, Oakland Raiders, and just a couple of teams, Packers, Colts. It really is interesting to see how you start liking a team and the origins of what made you drive you to be to like that team, because of the fact that obviously I'm a Miami Dolphins fan in New Jersey. We got Bears fans over here, so I just very interesting to see there's different origins and different upbringings of what makes your favorite team your favorite team.
Yeah, just to add on that, my own brother, born and raised in New Jersey, he's an Oakland Raiders fan, and he has been for as long as I can remember. The reason why, honestly, I'm not 100% sure. All I can remember is he was playing Madden back in the day, and the Raiders had Jerry Rice, and he liked Rich Gannon, and I guess he went with it, and he's stuck with it since. So the Raiders were pretty bad for a long time too. But
really, the origin, and I think this is pretty much the story of my origin of being a Dolphins fan, is the fact that as a kid I always liked being different. Than a lot of people. I think being different was one of the things that I took pride in. And as my family, mom, dad, brother are all huge Giants fans, there was one week, I believe it was 2002. I actually remember someone was talking to me about this the other day while I was out, and Ricky Williams ran all over the Giants, and I'm pretty sure they won 34-10 or something. That was the moment I wanted to be a Dolphins fan, because I watched my family's team go down in smoke. So that's pretty much the origin of that. I haven't jumped ship since, and it's been a rough road. And yeah. I mean, it's not 2009, 2010 when you guys were a game away from being in the Super Bowl. But I don't see that changing anytime soon. Fins up. So. Without further ado, let's get started. And I think that you really can't start the AFC South without the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that's been so bad for so many years. Last year, finally started all those off-season moves, all this drafting, everything started coming together for them last year. And now we finally see a team that might be on the top of the AFC.
My eyes, they're probably the second team behind New England because Pittsburgh too. But those three teams are the top three teams. It's just New England and Pittsburgh have been doing it for so long. Hopefully Jacksonville could keep up what they did last year. They got a phenomenal defense. They're outstanding. They can hold anyone when it comes to scoring points. Offensively, last year they struggled. They don't have great weapons offensively. Of course, they got running back last year, I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Leonard
Fournette, yep. He had a great rookie season, and Blake Bortles finally started to turn it around after he had a rough couple first years. Hopefully they could keep it going, because I'm actually a huge fan of this team.
Yeah, and let's take a look. We'll start on the offense, and obviously where we start really with the Jaguars, and it's the biggest question mark. It's the production level of Blake Bortles. And, we saw an average to below average Blake Bortles during the regular season last year. It was really carried a lot by the run game and opening that up, and obviously tremendous defensive play anchored by that nasty duo tandem at corner from Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye. But is this finally the year that Blake Bortles turns this around?
I hope it is. I've always been a good Blake Bortles fan. I think he has the potential. Last year, I think what really hurt him is his number one option wasn't there, and Allen Robinson. Losing him, I think he lost him first game of the season. It's a tough blow, but hopefully another year of just having more. Winning those games last year is going to give him confidence. So hopefully he could expand on that. Maybe he feels like he can make a better, like a more difficult throw. Maybe instead of hitting down check downs, they need explosive plays on offense because they got to find a way to move the ball. And hopefully the running game certainly helped them out last year, and hopefully they could move forward into this year with that as well.
And I'm a big factor of the fact that, like, a quarterback's only really as good, and it's as surprising as it is. A quarterback is only as good as his run game, because if you have a solid run game, you open up the pass, you open up the play action. Teams start to worry and start stacking the box so that you can stop a guy, and that's what Leonard Fournette does. I'll talk about him a little bit in just a second, but Blake Bortles, I really hope that I want to see this man succeed. I was a big fan of him in Central Florida. I thought he was a top guy in the in college coming out of the draft, and it's just you get shaky performances, you get bad decision making sometimes, and that affects him. And the thing is that he doesn't really have a guy like Allen Robinson. Yes, he has a pretty complete set of wide receivers in Keelan Cole and Marquise Lee, guys that Keelan Cole was a guy that came out of nowhere last year. Marquise Lee was a guy that was slow to start, but that was injury prone. Marquise Lee was one of my favorite guys coming out of college the year he was drafted. Day Westbrook stepped up a little bit late, but one of the guys, and this is my X factor this year, is really DJ Chark from LSU. Obviously, this breed of LSU receivers is starting to come in fruition. Obviously, you get a guy like Odell, you get a guy like Jarvis Landry. But now DJ Chark was a guy that skyrocketed up people's boards just from off-season work, what he's been able to accomplish. He had the best 40 time out of any receiver. He ran a 4.34, and I think that you get a lot of receivers that can really spread the field. And these guys are all fast, they're all agile. I think they're going to miss that big-bodied guy like that Allen Robinson. But I like what I see from this receiving core, because you know what? It comes back to the philosophy that, you know what, there's not one guy on here that really stands out to me as the true number one. But that's not always a bad thing, obviously, coming from looking at New England where they spread the ball out a lot. So expect Blake Bortles to have a good set of receivers, all with that playmaking ability.
Yeah, even to add on that, at the tight end position, they added Safarian Jenkins in the offseason, and I know from last year, as he was on the Jets, he missed the first few games from a suspension, but when he was on the field, he was rather productive. He was making plays. He made the Jets tight end position relevant for the first time in like 5 seasons, so if he could do anything like that for the Jaguars, it's a good, especially for Blake Bortles, who has a good running game. The play action is going to be huge for that offense. And tight ends, they make a living off just slipping behind linebackers off play action passes. So he could have a solid year this year and certainly help out the passing game.
Absolutely, and I think that everything comes back. And obviously the man around the offense is not Blake Bortles. It's not Marquise Lee. It's Leonard Fournette. I mean, yeah, he had a great rookie season last year. He really filled that role that, I mean, there's so much expectation with Leonard Fournette, especially coming out of high school, because everything I just kept hearing about him was this guy's the next Adrian Peterson. This guy is going to be the next big thing. It's just, and you know what? We saw glimpses of it. I mean, I think maybe, he could be a little bit better in the pass game, but I mean, you get a downhill guy like that. He's good in the open field. He's going to run. He'll run around you. He'll run through you. I think that this is the guy that's really going to make the Jaguars offense click. And it starts up front too. And I mean, you talk about teams that were so good and they even got better. Well, this offensive line got much better with the addition of Andrew Norwell at guard. Was a stud for the Panthers, and I was like, oh, Andrew Norwell, he's going to go to a below average team that's going to pay him a lot. He went to Jacksonville, and that's a scary sight.
Oh yeah, especially they had a great run game last year, and adding better offensive line is only going to make it better. Fournette, like you said, last year, solid year. He may have got hurt a little bit from his passing game, because maybe the passing game wasn't always there, and like you said, they stack in the box, so it was harder for him to really find some holes. But if they could find a good match between the pass and the run, maybe defenses won't have 8 people in the box. Fournette could be running for days with this offensive line, and that's a scary sight for any opposing defense.
Absolutely, and that's the key for Jacksonville to be able to score on offense, because we moved to the defensive side of the ball, and it's just no question this is the best unit in the NFL when it comes to talent-wise. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. You'd think right off the bat, Jalen Ramsey, in my opinion, he's easily the best corner right now in football. He could tackle, he could cover. He's just your one-on-one. Put him on an island, he's gonna lock you down. And when you have a guy like that on defense, there's just so much you can use with everyone else. You don't have to worry about putting a safety over the top. You can help somewhere else if you need to. You can send an extra man or maybe an exotic blitz or something like that along those lines. And it causes so much havoc. And even their other side corner, they're all phenomenal. And there's so much this defense could do.
Absolutely. And the thing is you think about this too, is that there's just so much depth here. I look at this front four, and right now it's a Unique Ngakoue, Malik Jackson, Calais Campbell. Avery Jones is in there, but I'm expecting rookie Taven Bryan to take over that spot, and that was a guy that I thought was a really good D tackle, one of my top 3 D tackles, and they took him in the first round. I was like, oh my gosh, they're just bolstering the middle of their defense. Another guy that I looked here, Dante Fowler, still a guy that the number 3 overall pick, still got a lot to offer on the edge, and Marcel Darius. That's another top 3 guy. Look at, even the talent just at the D line, it's incredible. Seeing the amount of depth and the guys that they could just rotate, and they're gonna hurt you a number of ways up front.
Yeah, honestly, as an opposing offense, you don't know if you even want to run or pass against this team. Like usually, you could find a weakness somewhere on a defense. Maybe you can exploit a spot. With this defense, it's going to be tough. They just got it from head to toe, and I feel bad for the teams in their division, and it's just not going to be an easy time scoring.
Right, and the teams in their division have got 2 young quarterbacks, and a quarterback coming off from a serious injury where he hasn't played in 2 years. So putting the pressure on the quarterback they're going to cause some turnovers within this division, because you're playing a quarterback who's going to be starting his first game. Well, not starting his first game, but he is going to be taking over the helm in Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. You're going to be playing Deshaun Watson, coming off another young guy, but coming off an ACL injury, and obviously Andrew Luck, which was, I believe it was a torn rotator cuff. I may be mistaken though. But yeah, that's the name of the game, and is just putting these pressure on these young guys so that he can just really start creating turnovers for them. So. The linebacking core, man, down by Telvin Smith and Miles Jack, was tremendous last year. And then obviously you clearly stated the secondary, which just is the best secondary in football, with just A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey. They even added Ronnie Harrison, safety I thought was a first-round talent. They ended up getting him in the second round. So, you talk about depth, they've got it. So we're going to move to records now. With the strength and schedule and everything, I got them going 13-3.
I actually have them exactly going 13-3 as well.
I've got them going winning 8 or 9 games in a row before finally dropping to Pittsburgh, because I think Pittsburgh's not going to let this team beat them 3 times in a row. But yeah, 13-3. Yeah, you're playing the NFC East, which I think is a little bit. It's not as strong as it's been. Yeah, you play the Eagles. I actually have them beating the Eagles. I just think that when they're going to be playing home, Week 8, Philadelphia. I got them losing to Pittsburgh. I got them losing to Tennessee late in the season, and Houston, because I think, they're going to already solidify a spot for themselves.
I literally have the same exact thing. So I have them losing at Tennessee, at Houston, and against Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Well, two minds think alike. We did not plan this, by the way. But, the strength of schedule plays to them. They're also playing what is it? The AFC. They're playing the NFC and AFC East. So, it's just you're playing 2 weak divisions. You're as strong as you are. I think it's just plays in the favor of Jacksonville, and the fact that they're just so talented that they're not going to really have that much competition, which might hurt them coming around the playoffs, but we'll see. Obviously, I always do 3 games to watch. Week 1 against the Giants for no other reason other the fact that, you know what, let's see how this defense handles the explosiveness that looks like the Giants offense so far with all this talent around them with Sterling Shepard. Obviously, the matchup is going to be Jalen Ramsey and Odell Beckham. And then, obviously, Tom Coughlin, playing his former team, a team he won 2 Super Bowls with. So that's gonna be a matchup to see. Obviously, Week 11 against Pittsburgh. This team beat them twice last year. Once in Heinz Field and once, well, they beat them both times on the road.
Yeah, they did.
But now they're traveling into Jacksonville.
Wasn't the one game like in London or? Oh no.
No.
They didn't play a game over when they utterly blew them out.
No, they were home. It was Week 5.
Okay.
Big Ben threw 5 picks that game. I remember that. And Fournette, that was the game where he called on Mike Mitchell to come and take him on. I remember that. That was awesome. But yeah, I mean that's going to be because that might be a future AFC Championship game right there between Pittsburgh and them. And then Week 8 against Philly, definitely. You got 2 teams that I think are very alike and similar with the fact that a lot of depth on offense, a lot of ways to go with the ball, 2 great defenses. Some got more strength than others in certain spots. I think the linebacking core in Philly is better than the one in Jacksonville, but the secondary is hands down better than the one in Philly, and it's going to be interesting to see if Carson Wentz can start picking apart this Jacksonville defense.
Yeah, just to add on to that Week 8 game against Philly, that very easily could have been the Super Bowl matchup last year if a few things went Jacksonville's way against the Patriots. There was a fumble that happened, but they blew the whistle early, which could have been fumble recovery for 6, going for Jacksonville's way, and just Tom Brady being Tom Brady in the fourth quarter. So that very well could have been Super Bowl last year. But just looking at these games, Week 2, you know what, I just said it, New England versus Jacksonville, the matchup of the AFC Championship game last year. It's going to be one hell of a game. Tom Brady going against this great, prolific defense. Guy's like 43 years old. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what he can do against.
He
a great
hasn't
defense
aged one bit on the field.
not at all. Honestly, just you named a lot of games I was looking at because, like we said before, they don't play many great teams. They play the East, the NFC, and AFC, and like there's nothing spectacular with the Jets, Miami, Buffalo, Giants, Dallas, or Redskins. But I guess Week 17, if you look at it at Houston, not that's an important game for Jacksonville necessarily, but for Houston, it could possibly be a wild card game for them.
Absolutely.
It's at Houston, so and you know what? Maybe for Jacksonville it could be important because maybe they could be playing for a bye. You don't know where New England, and you don't know where Pittsburgh's going to be at that time, so. Yeah, Week 17 is actually another game I think.
I do like that game because I think you're very right. Jacksonville may already have claimed the first round bye. I mean, obviously you want to do home field advantage throughout, but I think that Houston's going to be fighting for a wild card spot at that point. So we'll see where we go at that. And speaking of the Texans, why don't we go in that direction? Obviously, the Texans are a team that, to me, I don't know. They're getting a lot of good publicity, and I can see why. Obviously, you got guys like Deshaun Watson, you got guys like J.J. Watt, but I look at this roster and I definitely see a few holes that concern me. But hey, anything can happen, but I'm gonna keep my skepticism going with this Houston's team. But let's go through it. Deshaun Watson. That's where it starts.
It's honestly where it starts. And last year he was showing great signs. He was running, he was throwing, he was doing it all. The Texans were putting up like 30 points every time they played, it seemed. And then just an injury at practice, and the season basically comes crumbling down. And ACL injuries, they're tough. They're really tough. We've seen it firsthand with our own friends playing football in college, and we've seen it in the NFL all the time. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to come back from. Not everyone's Adrian Peterson who could just come back 8 months later and then run for 2,000 yards the next season.
Absolutely. That's a freak of nature right there.
Yeah, it starts. It's always with the quarterback position. It's what makes or breaks you as a team, and he has the ability to do it all. We just gotta hope he could continue what he was showing us last year.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm really rooting for him. I thought he was one of the most electrifying players out there on the field last year, and that's that's something that I know Houston definitely missed. Obviously, they finished fourth fourth to last in the NFL and didn't even get a first round pick out of it. Obviously, they traded up with the Browns for Deshaun Watson, and I felt like that hurt them a lot because I don't think they were picking until the third round. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that Deshaun Watson. The thing I said that I was actually talking to somebody about it yesterday. You can't limit him. The thing is, you know what? You got to let him do him. But the thing is that you can either end up like he can end up like an Adrian Peterson, or he can end up like an RG3, where he takes away the element of his game. But the thing is that I think Deshaun Watson is a little bit better off than RG3. I think he has a better pocket presence than RG3 ever had. He doesn't always use his feet first. He always tries to find the pass. And, there was a couple times last year where, rookie syndrome, you go for the deep all the time, you get picked off. But, I mean, it's hard not to go for the deep ball. And this is transitioning to the next play. It's time. Yeah. It's hard not to go for the deep ball when you have DeAndre Hopkins, who, in my opinion, is just he's a top 3 receiver now. There's no question about it.
He's phenomenal. I feel like he catches anything that's in his area. He's a great red zone threat. Could jump with the best of them. He's just phenomenal. He does it all. When Watson was healthy, I feel like Hopkins was probably catching 10 balls a game, 120 yards, a touchdown almost every week. And just when you have an option like that, as a young quarterback, you're going to use him as much as you can.
Even when he wasn't, and Tom Savage was in, he was still. Yeah, he was still getting the catch because that's the guy you go to. And as much as you tried to stop him, and teams like this is how you beat the Texans, you stop DeAndre Hopkins, it just wouldn't work for him. Another guy that was productive with Deshaun Watson and will benefit too is Will Fuller. I mean, what was he? He had there was some crazy thing where he caught 16 passes, but 6 or 7 of them were touchdowns.
I think last year like that. He had a game where I think he just had 2 catches, 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Because that's what he does. He's just a big play guy. He's not gonna go out and catch 10 passes every game, but when he does get the ball, he does a lot with it. And when you have options like that as a quarterback, you gotta be ecstatic. Just having 2 guys that are absolute playmakers on the offensive side.
Yeah, the only thing that really concerns me is the offensive line looks a little scarce. Obviously, they get rid of Dwayne Brown, who was their best tackle. He's been manning down that left side for years. So I'm hoping that this unit can step up and protect Watson, because if you get this guy hurt again, your season's over. And then let's talk about one of the most underrated guys in the NFL, in my opinion, a guy that never really gets talked about, but I feel like does a lot for their organization for the couple of years that he's been there. How about Lamar Miller? The fact that he is just he's one of the better dual threat running backs in the league. I mean, man's got a lot of speed. He can make you miss in the open field. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I'm a big fan of Lamar Miller and what he's able to accomplish.
Yeah, no, Lamar Miller, he's a very solid back. He could, like you said, he could do a lot. He could catch the ball, he could run, and he had good years on Miami.
Had a 98-yard touchdown on your defense.
Yeah, it's really big. No, he's been a solid guy. I remember I've had him on my fantasy team a couple of years. He's not like your top guys, but he's good enough. He could carry the load if you need him to. Not having a great offensive line does hurt him. But when you have the other options around them, it kind of makes it easier for them. Maybe they're not going to stack the box when they have options such as Hopkins and Fuller on the outside. So that could maybe open up some more holes for him. But as a running back, any team would be happy to have a guy like Miller. So
absolutely.
Texans are certainly they got a plus there on the offensive side.
It's a guy that since he's been there, he hasn't really been replaced. So, that's the guy. I also go to this tight end spot, and it's scarce. Ryan Griffin, Jordan Atkins, I'm not too sold on that. You could really have used a better guy early, but Ryan Griffin's the guy right now. Maybe he can step up for the Texans. So, we move to this defensive side, and the defensive side looks pretty good. Obviously, the big addition here, well, the 2 big things is obviously you get J.J. Watt back from injury, and the man's got to stay healthy. I mean, I can't stress it enough how much of an importance he is to this defense. And if he can stay healthy, I mean, this is a great unit. But obviously, the other thing is they signed Tyrann Mathieu from the Cardinals. That's a guy that fits a big role right away in your secondary, which is full of guys that veteran guys: Jonathan Joseph, Kareem Jackson, Tyrann Mathieu, young Kevin Johnson on the other side. But I think having that experience in the secondary really helps him. I think you got to get three guys that are on the same page.
Oh yeah, especially in the secondary, you always need your guys on the same page. You gotta make sure everyone's in the right coverage, in the same coverage. And having a guy like Tyrann Mathieu, it opens up so many doors for an offense. As a safety such as talented as he can blitz. He's great in pass coverage. As we know, he's good at creating turnovers, and as a defense, you know what? Maybe you're not always going to stop the offense, but if you could create maybe a turnover here or there with guys like Mathieu and Watt, you know what? That's sometimes all your offense needs, because you know what? You're going to be in shootouts from time to time, and a turnover here or there could be the difference in the game.
Yeah, I mean, even this I look at this linebacking core, obviously a little bit different because they run a 3-4 defense, but I mean, man down by Whitney Merciless is a very good pass rusher in his right, with the same with Jadeveon Clowney. The fact that he can do so much on the field too, he can drop him back. He's one of the better 3-4 backers in the league, and the man down in the middle by Zach Cunningham and Benjamin McKinney. I mean, I think that's a strength on their team, is the fact that they've got 4 solid linebackers right there and 2 great edge rushers. So I mean, they're going to be putting some pressure, and I think that the key really in this division is pressure, and how much you can. A shaky quarterback division really in its own right, with a lot of young guys and a lot of guys that don't really deal with pressure. I feel like pressure is really the key to this division. You can put pressure on these quarterbacks, you're going to be doing just fine.
Yeah, just adding on Jadeveon Clowney, he's another guy. He just got to stay healthy. I feel like he's always hurt as well. I actually just saw him online that this is his contract year, so just for him personally, he got to stay on the field, maybe have a good season, get himself a extension or a big contract next year, but yeah, this is probably the one division that has the least amount of experience as quarterback. All these guys are fairly young, only been in the league for a few years. I'm pretty sure.
Well, young except for Luck, but
he's been hurt for 2 years now.
Yeah,
a lot of inexperience just all around, and Deshaun Watson very well could be the most explosive guy of all of them. Just if Luck's on the field, Luck is the best. But we haven't seen him in 2 years, so we don't know what he'll be. But yeah, just the quarterback play in this division overall is kind of, you don't know who's the best. Like, you don't really know where to rank them. Like, it's actually tough to say, but Blake Bortles might be the worst quarterback in this division, and nope. Probably the best team overall, and not.
It's funny how
you don't always. Usually, the team with the best quarterback is winning the division. In this division, that's not the case, because the worst quarterback is probably going to win the division this year. And quarterback play. In this division, it's funky. This is a division, especially with the Texans and Jaguars, really focused on defense. Well, besides the Colts, but
I completely screwed up now that I'm thinking about it. Kansas City's not.
Yeah, Kansas City's not in this division.
I completely screwed that up, and I apologize. It's the Titans and Marcus Mariota. Still a young quarterback, but I don't know why. You should have corrected me when I said that.
I said the Kansas City was in the West. I don't think you heard me.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know what was going through me, but I'm a man. When I make mistakes, I apologize and I get through it. Marcus Mariota, but still another guy you put pressure on. He won't. He'll make some mistakes. So, let's go to these records. And, I wasn't really too sure about Houston, but, looking at the schedule, obviously it's the same thing with Jacksonville. I actually got 9-7. I think 9-7 is a good mark, especially with the amount of talent that you can have. And you know what? Even this is 9-7, a big difference from last year. But the schedule plays to you. If you get Watson back, you might be able to win one more game, but I feel like 9-7 with Watson healthy is a good mark for them.
Yeah, I have them going 10-6. A lot depends on Watson, on his health, because if he's not fully healthy, he's not playing most of these games. Of course, their record's gonna be worse. But just same thing with Jacksonville. They don't play a lot of tough competition. Like they play good teams such as New England and Philly and Jacksonville, but a lot of the other teams and the divisions they played, it's nothing really to be afraid of. And I think Houston's a good enough team to contend for a wild card. Even at 9-7 in the AFC, you definitely have a shot at a wild card spot. But having them at 10-6, I think they could slip in as probably a 5 seed there. So
might be able to happen. So setting the bar for there. Obviously, all right. So let's go. 3 games to watch out for. I mean, I've been picking week 1 a lot, but I think that there's a lot of guys that got to prove themselves in week 1 situations, and the Texans are no different. You're on the road in New England, a game that I think you should have won last year. Brandon Cooks makes an incredible toe tap in the back of the end zone. But, yeah, I mean, I will see if Watson can light it up from there. Midway through the season, I think Denver's a matchup that I think is actually a pretty evenly matched. So I'm going to go week 9 at Denver for one of mine. Obviously, Case Keenum was coming off a great season with the Vikings. I think you get a lot of similarities in play style. You're going to be going against, obviously, it's I can't think of his name. Chris Harris. Chris Harris versus DeAndre Hopkins is a matchup that I'd love to see because Chris Harris is one of my favorite man corners in the league. For a while, he never let up a touchdown man on man, and then obviously Antonio Brown comes in, but that's he's just a different animal. It was the same last year. AJ Boye never gave a man-on-man touchdown all year, and comes Antonio Brown, But yeah, I mean Denver. I think that's a good matchup for them. And then obviously, I think Week 17 against Jacksonville is another big one for them because that might be the decision maker. If they can knock off Jacksonville at home, Week 17, you're fighting for a wild card spot at that point. That's a big game, especially if you can knock Jacksonville down a peg by doing so.
Yeah, it's certainly a huge game, especially where we have them standing 9-7, 10-6. That last divisional game, it's going to be huge. Just for tie-breaking purposes, winning a division game is huge, and also just that win at the end of the season, it's going to be a tough race for the wild card. And Tennessee's a good team in their own, so they're going to be right there, right behind them, or right with them. So yeah, Week 17 is a good one. Just going through it. Week 12, when they actually do play Tennessee, it's just a huge divisional game. Like we said, it's going to be a close race. It's actually a night game. Yeah, it's a Monday night game actually. It's at Houston, so they're gonna be home. So hopefully that could be a good game for them. Hopefully they can win it. Well, I like Houston. I'm not a huge fan of Tennessee. I'm not a huge fan of Marcus Mariota, but he's good and they're a solid team. And actually, another game I chose, you actually said as well, Denver. I feel Denver's defense is phenomenal with Von Miller and Chubb and Harris. They got a lot of good guys. And I just want to see how Deshaun Watson can handle all the pressure that Denver's going to throw at them on the defensive side. It'll be another good game. I actually have Denver winning that game, actually. I think Denver's going to find a way to pull that one out. But I think all in all, that'd be another really good game to watch.
I do have Denver winning that game. Yeah. I think, it's on the road. It's midway through the season. You're just sort of trying to figure out where you are and where you stand. But I think I always give advantage to the home team when I think it's too close. So we're moving away from the Texans, and we'll go to Tennessee, the team I forgot. Let's go to them. I don't know how I could forget about this team. I actually really like what Tennessee's done the last couple of years, really putting themselves in that playoff spot, really putting themselves in contention, all the pieces starting to go together. And it's like every other team, it starts with the quarterback, and Marcus Mariota is no different. While you may not be a big fan of Marcus Mariota, I am. I love his playmaking ability. I love his his ability to throw on the run. I love his red zone percentage. I'm pretty sure he still has one of the better red zone percentages. I don't think he's thrown an interception. There was a stat maybe 1 or 2 seasons ago where he thrown 21 touchdowns in the red zone and no interceptions. So, I mean, that's very good because obviously the fact is that's an area where that if you put Marcus Mariota down there, he's not going to make a mistake. He's going to go and you're going to put points on the board regardless of whether it's a field goal or a touchdown.
For any team, you always want a quarterback that is going to take care of the ball, and especially when it comes to the red zone because when you're inside the 20, you got to at least get 3 points. As a team, you want to score the touchdown, but you can't come out with nothing. Because when you're turning the ball over inside the red zone, it deflates a team mentally, and it even hurts as a defensive player because you're playing your heart out and you think you're finally going to get rewarded with some points on the board, and then offense coughs it up. So having a quarterback that can keep the ball, not turn the ball over and score points is huge. I remember last year, I think in the playoff game, Marcus Mariota actually threw himself a touchdown in the red zone. Didn't the ball get batted up in the air?
That was your guy. That was Darrell Revis. Batted the ball down right in Marcus Mariota's hands. That was one of the better plays of the playoffs.
And that was the game-changing play of that in that game because I don't remember exactly, but that might have been the tying touchdown or go-ahead touchdown. But
it was. I don't know if it was that. I think that, but that definitely changed the momentum of the game.
Because they were losing like 16-0 or something like that.
It proves that Kansas City, maybe that's why I got Kansas City mixed up because they're playing the Titans. They played the Titans and
they helped the Titans.
They always choke in the playoffs. So, but yeah, let's talk about one of my favorite guys on the Titans now, a veteran guy, a guy that is old reliable for the Titans. I love Delanie Walker. I think he's a top 5 tight end. I think he's been a top 5 tight end for a while. Definitely a guy I take in fantasy all the time. And that production level is he really needs Marcus Mariota really needs Delanie Walker a lot. I mean, Jonnu Smith was a guy that I thought stepped up a lot last year. Was a guy I think he was a rookie, and he might be filling Delanie Walker's shoes pretty well because obviously he's at the last couple of years of his career. I think he's been in the league for 10 or 11 years. But I think it really takes the pressure off this receiving core, which really isn't really have a lot of depth. I mean, I look at Tywan Taylor and Tajay Sharp are guys that were hit and miss guys last year, but I think all the pressure really goes on Corey Davis now, their 5th overall pick from, I think, last year, to really step into that role. And I loved Corey Davis. I thought he was the best receiver going out, better than Mike Williams, who was on the Chargers. But, he really did not have a productive season at all last year, so I'm a little bit skeptical. Hopefully he's able to take that number 1 role and run with it.
Yeah, hopefully these receivers can really step it up for Mariota because, just looking at these names, nothing really jumping off the board. You're like, oh, this is a number 1 guy, you got to use him. Mariota doesn't have much to it's not like Watson has a guy like Fuller or Hopkins. Mariota's just dealing with what he got. Delanie Walker, like you said, he's been great for years now. Just throwing a shout out. My dad absolutely loves Delanie Walker. I don't know what it is.
You can't not like him.
The guy, he puts up numbers every week, and you know what? You can't argue against it.
And it's funny, he leaves San Francisco because, he's stuck behind a Vernon Davis who was at the prime of his career at that time. And, you really don't know how the backup is really going to do. And then all of a sudden you go to another team and you have such a successful time. Because, he was behind Vernon Davis when Vernon Davis was an absolute monster for the 49ers. That lasted all of 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But Delanie Walker, I think, has had a better career than Vernon Davis has.
Oh,
and it's funny when you see that. You really don't know. And it's that next man up mentality. You really don't know because you play one guy, he's really that good. You get another guy that's good, but you really don't know because he's overshadowed. He goes to a different team, he explodes, and that's what happened. And that's definitely the story of Delanie Walker right now. But and the offensive line is very underrated in my opinion. You get a guy manning down the left side like Taylor Lewan, who I believe is the highest paid left tackle in football now. I may be mistaken. I think that happened recently. He just got a big contract from Tennessee, but he plays really well. Ben Jones has been a guy I'm holding it down for center for Houston for a while. He goes to the division rival. Josh Klein and Dennis Kelly. So they got Marcus Mariota doesn't really have to worry too much about up front, even though that's a guy that has the ability to make plays outside the pocket if pressure's coming.
Oh, yeah, and it's always a plus for any offensive line to have a mobile quarterback just because he can escape pressure if he needs to. If there's an overload blitz to the side, you know what? Maybe you don't have to worry so much because he could roll out if he needs to. He's definitely mobile. He's shown in college and pros that he can run. And just going back to the offensive line, certainly going to help a guy I know you like a lot, Bama guy, and Derrick Henry. And you know what?
Oh, yeah.
He has the spot all to himself now. DeMarco Murray
My
gone.
thing with the Titans, though, is you got to be careful with Derrick Henry because of the fact that, you know what? I love Derrick Henry, and I love the way he played. That was a guy that exploded out of nowhere in a bowl game, even though they lost to Oklahoma that year. But I think the big factor this year is really Dion Lewis from New England. I mean, I'm not saying I think Derrick Henry is number one back, I think for sure, but you got to, that's a guy that you got to monitor his workload because that was a guy that was getting 30 to 35 touches for Alabama. And it's only a matter of time before a guy like that snaps because he's just taken on a huge workload. He's always taken on a huge workload. I think what's really helped him was the fact that he was sharing carries with DeMarco Murray. I mean, yes, it was about time they stepped into that workload, stepped into that number one running back role. But you got to monitor the workload because you don't want a guy like that who is he's going to get you those short yardage, winning those short yardage situations. Yeah. Sorry, but definitely manage that workload. And Dion Lewis, third down back for sure.
Oh, yeah, Dion Lewis. He's one of the best pass-catching running backs in the league. He's done it for years, on and off. He had a big injury one year in New England. I know it hurt him a bit. But just as a third-down guy, he's exactly what you want. He's your like Darren Sproles, shifty little guy out of the backfield who's going to just create mismatches for linebackers. And on third downs, third and longs, he's certainly a guy you want in there. And, you know, it's good to have that 1-2 punch at the running back spot because most teams nowadays do have that 1-2. You got your ground and pound guys such as Henry, and then you got your shifty guy that's going to go outside, catch a ball here and there in Lewis. So
I love those 1-2 punches.
Yeah, man. No, honestly, all teams have them. Just like what we talked about with Atlanta, you know, like those two guys are a little too similar, and Freeman and.
I mean, those are two different guys.
Yeah, they're different guys, but just saying, like teams, they have that 1-2 punch. Like you need more than one guy. And you know what? Tennessee has that, so that's good for them.
Yeah. Now let's move to the defensive side of the ball, and this is a team that you know, it's starting to all come together. They start picking pieces every year, you know, and everything's starting to come together, I think, on this defensive side. I mean, it starts up front. Jarrell Casey's a very good defensive tackle. Defensive end, like a 3-4 DN. Daquan Jones, Benny Logan's three good guys up front. You get a good linebacking core with Derek Morgan. Obviously, Wesley Woodyard's been manning it down for the Titans for a while. Will Compton, I think he might get overthrown this year from a guy named Rashawn Evans. I mean, you can't go wrong with those Bama linebackers. They just breed them out like freaking pigs. Just and Brian Rakpo, obviously the edge rush, veteran edge rusher, just always brings that element there. And then the secondary, you got the secondary that's man down. You got a new face. You get Malcolm Butler. Who is obviously the whole controversy with him not playing in the Super Bowl. But he's excited about the fresh start. Really sad, though, to see early on in this season, and even before we start, Kevin Byard went down with an injury. He's going to be out with a torn Achilles, and that's a tough thing to get that. But they go to free agency, and they sign Kenny Vaccaro, and that's big. Kenny Vaccaro was a starting safety for the New Orleans Saints, and a very good guy, to say the least. So that's a huge pickup that they're able to replace Kevin Byard with Kenny Vaccaro. So, I mean, they're going to miss Kevin Byard, who was an all-star last year, but Kenny Vaccaro is going to step into that role nicely. And then, obviously, Logan Ryan and then Adoree Jackson, who is the multi-tool of this defense. So the defense really looking good for the Titans.
Yeah, it is a good defense. Just going back to the safety position, just in technically any position at all, you know, it's always good to have that depth. So having that injury, it certainly hurts, but you know what? That's why you have those backups. You know, that's why you get these guys from free agency to make sure your team's in the best spot possible. And Vaccaro, you know, he's been playing safety and he's doing it well for several years now. And you brought up Malcolm Butler. I'm just very curious to see where he goes because, you know what? He went from Super Bowl hero that one year against Seattle, and then last year just he didn't play at all. You know, right. It was this sticky situation with the coaches and all that. But you know what? A fresh start. It's exactly what he needed because, you know, he wasn't going anywhere with New England after that. Like, it was all done. So he's shown he has talent. He's a good corner. Is he a number one guy? He's close to it. I wouldn't say he's definitely top notch, but like he's certainly serviceable. But like we said with the other teams, this defense is pretty good, and it's probably the better half of the ball for them at least. I think so. At least.
Even in the AFC, I would say it's definitely within that top range. And another guy I was just looking at, Harold Landry. As a guy that does a lot of draft research around that time, Harold Landry was one of my favorite guys when it came to rushing the passer. I mean, that's the extent of what I thought he could do, but he was one of my favorite pass rushers coming out of Boston College. Was supposed to be a first-round pick, dropped into the second, Tennessee, and I think they traded up to get him. But definitely a guy to watch on those third down, those passing situations, a guy that's going to make a few sacks next season. So let's go to the record. And I think this is a playoff team. I got them going 10-6. I think that you talk about consistency the last couple of years. Obviously, the Titans have been making the playoffs. They finally found a system that works. And I really like what I see from them. And obviously, the schedule plays in their favor. So I think 10-6 is a good mark for them.
Yeah, I had them going 9-7. So we basically almost just flip-flopped Tennessee and Texans with our records. I had Texans going 10-6. You had them going 9-7. Now I have Titans going 9-7. You have them going 10-6. Yeah, like they're a really good team. I just thought Houston was a tad better, so I just wanted to give them that one extra win above them. But like I said, 9-7. You know what? It's fighting for a wild card spot. The AFC is not a loaded conference. There's some good teams, you know what, an injury here or there, and they can find themselves as a sixth spot. And you never really know with this conference, but they're a good team. They play the Rams, which is tough. They play Philly, Jacksonville twice.
What do they play the Rams? That's the Chargers.
It's the Chargers.
Yeah.
You see Los Angeles. That's what's things when you see two teams. I get confused too when I see New York twice. I have to double check. But okay, the Chargers. That makes a lot more sense. All right. Yeah, but no, the Chargers are still a very good team anyway as well. So it's not an easy game for them. Chargers probably one of the best teams in the West. Just a top spot for them. But now I'm going to go into my top three games. I'll start off this time. Go with Jacksonville, Week 14. It's going to be a big division game. Two young quarterbacks going at it, Blake Bortles and Marcus Mariota. How is Mariota going to face against a great Jacksonville defense? He's certainly going to use his legs. Is he going to? It also doesn't have great receivers, so it's going to be tough to really get guys open with Ramsey and that secondary and coverage. It's not going to be an easy game. But as a divisional game late in the season, it's certainly going to have a lot of meaning to it. Even though I thought it was the Rams at first, even if it's the Chargers, I think that Week 7 game, it's going to be another really important game. Just two teams that are going to be top in their division. I have Tennessee going 9-7. I'll probably have the Chargers probably better than that. I think they're probably the best team in the West. But that's another really good team. It's going to be a great game. Phillip Rivers has been one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league.
Oh, yeah, you're a big Phillip Rivers fan.
I'm a huge Phillip Rivers fan, and he's been one of my favorites for years. It's another game. I think it's going to be fun to watch and just see what happens there. And
Absolutely. I mean, I got back-to-back games, I think, for my top three games to watch if you're watching the Titans, and it's Week 6 against Baltimore. I think it's a very even match. Definitely the two teams that are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. We'll see if Joe Flacco does bad enough. We might see the two of the most electrifying quarterbacks to come out of college, in Mariota and Lamar Jackson. That would be a very, very interesting matchup to see. The Chargers definitely, I think that there's still it's a lot of two very good teams, two teams again fighting for the playoffs. It's going to be quite a contest. I know I'm definitely going to be watching it come that time. And then Houston in Week 12, because I think it's going to start coming down to the wire. And like you said, these two teams are going to be really battling it out and really duking it out to see who comes in second and seeing if that's really is good enough for a playoff spot. But definitely a game to watch coming down the stretch with all these games left, but this is really key matchup week 12 to see who's going to gain that advantage going into the last few games in the season. And then last, but I want to say not least, but least.
Certainly least. Yeah.
Certainly least. Last, but certainly least, the Colts. I mean, even with Andrew Luck back, I look at this team and I just there's holes.
It's just not a good team, honestly. If
they were a movie, they'd be holes.
This is probably this is the sixth division we've covered now. Probably, actually no, this is definitely the worst team we've covered, and we even covered the Browns. So that's saying some.
Hey, Browns made moves.
No, honestly, the Browns.
Colts did not make moves.
I think I had the Browns going 4-12, and I wanted to make them better. Just they played a lot of really good teams, and it was tough.
That's the thing with the Browns, man. I mean,
the Colts, they're just they look so bad, and you don't even know what's happening with Andrew Luck. Like, I'm assuming Luck is going to play, but I can't say he's going to be as good as he was. Dude hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah.
They're just not a good team. Defensively, I just feel like they've been awful for years.
And they're trying to fix it, but I mean,
the offensive line it's a reason why they are in the position they are now. Andrew Luck just gets sacked like 7 times a game, it feels like. And
they've made steps in the right direction
Yeah.
when it comes to the offensive line. Obviously, their first round pick was Quentin Nelson, who is undoubtedly the best offensive lineman in that draft. No question about it. I mean, you very rarely see a guard go within those top 10 picks, let alone top 5. But he did. Actually, you know what? I think he was drafted 6th, but that's beside the point. I mean, you rarely see those guards taken in the top 10, but Quentin Nelson's just that damn good. And reminded, obviously, of Notre Dame former teammate, I believe, Zach Martin. But, I mean, they get Braden Smith, who is also a pretty good offensive lineman. But, I mean, I look at this team and I just see inconsistency. I mean, I thought you should have went out for a top running back in this draft. You should have went for a Ronald Jones. You should have went for a Darius Geis. You should have went for a Kerryon Johnson or a Rashad Penny. Obviously, Rashad Penny was gone before they were going to be picking again, but they waited. They're really putting too much pressure on Marlon Mack, who didn't get a lot of carries last year because of the fact that he was sharing so much with Frank Gore. It's just, I mean, you're holding it down really on the wide receiving core with just T.Y. And, I mean, T.Y.'s production goes up because of the fact that Andrew Luck's back, and Andrew Luck loves slinging the ball down the field for T.Y. He does, and that hurt me last year when him not playing, Andrew Luck not playing. I had T.Y., and T.Y. was such a disappointment because he didn't have Andrew Luck. I mean, I like the tight end duo of Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron. I mean, there's bright spots on this team. I'm not going to say that this is literally the worst team I've ever seen. I'm just saying a lot of it doesn't look good.
Yeah, it's not the worst team we've ever seen, but yeah, like compared to a lot of the other teams we covered, there's just so many holes. Like I like Jack Doyle. I think he's a solid guy. Eric Ebron on Detroit, he never really showed much. Not the greatest hands. Never much production with Matt Stafford. But you know what? Maybe a new scenery. Maybe we can help him out.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Luck is a guy that also likes throwing to his tight ends too. I mean, he made Kobe Fleener look good, and even Drew Brees couldn't make him look good.
Yeah, it's true.
Dwayne Allen was good when Andrew Luck was there. Obviously, he hasn't done anything with New England. But, I mean, we go to the defensive end, and it gets worse than the offense. I mean, you're really holding it down with I mean, the corners, I mean, I can't even tell you who these guys are. I mean,
yeah, I honestly don't know.
I mean, the bright spot about their defense is on the secondary is obviously Malik Hooker. I mean, that guy, I thought he was one of the best safeties coming out of the draft last year. I mean, he was. The guy's a ball hawk. But I mean, other than that, I mean, yes, the Jabal Sheard was good for New England for a couple of years, but other than that, you're really relying on Darius Leonard, the guy you drafted from, I believe it was NC State, to step up. But I mean, Al Woods, Danico Autry, Najee Good, Antonio Morrison, I don't know. Pierre Desir, I guess, was all right, but I mean, I don't know. I look at this defense. This might be the worst defense that we've covered.
Yeah, honestly, just looking at these names, I don't even know most of these guys, so I can't even give you much intel if I even want to, and that's not a good thing.
It's not a good sign.
And it's just crazy because you looked at the other 3 teams in this division, all their defenses were either really good or at least solid. So like, just the huge drop off from talent level from teams 1 through 3 to the Colts. It's just not good, and it actually makes you think like. It's not even from a team and player perspective. You gotta look at it from a management perspective. Like, how is like the general manager letting the team get to this point? Like, you gotta go out, you gotta sign people, you gotta keep people, or you gotta draft the right way. Like, you know what? That's what happens when you're drafting. What year was it? They already had 2 good receivers, and they took a receiver in the first round. Philip Dorsett.
Yeah, Philip Dorsett.
And they had him for like what, a year and a half. So like, it just shows what poor drafting and poor management does to a team, and
I mean, this is what happens.
Just Andrew Luck being hurt also doesn't help, but just there's just a lot of turmoil.
Not to make a joke out of it, but this is what happens when this is what the organization happens when your owner is out getting caught with DUIs when he's $1 million, when he's made of billions of dollars and you can't get an Uber, you have to drive home drunk with billions of dollars. It just doesn't make
decision making.
Bad decision. The key of the Colts is bad decision making, and it's sad. I mean, one of the guys that I've heard bright spots about is Nyheim Hines, going back to the fact that, you should have taken a Ronald Jones, you should have taken a Kerryon Johnson. But Nyheim Hines, a smaller statured guy, but definitely a guy that they might put him in on third downs. He might make a few plays, but we'll see. I mean, going to the records, I mean, I was nice to even give them 1 win, which I gave them against the Buffalo Bills.
I did the same exact thing.
1-15.
I actually didn't want to give it to them, but I felt really bad making them go 0-16. So I gave them 1 win against the Bills.
And we're laughing about this, obviously, because it's just we can make a few jokes and stuff like that. And you gotta have fun, obviously. I love having fun talking about football, but I mean. I don't think anybody's that bad that they're going to be 0-16. I said that about the Browns last year, and they've proved me wrong. But they're not going 0-16. They're not. They've got Jarvis Landry.
It's true.
I can vouch for him. He's good.
The Browns are certainly winning games this year.
They are winning games. Obviously, I've been meaning to watch Hard Knocks, but I mean the Colts. It just it looks bad. It looks bad. Well, and I can't even give you 3 games that I'm saying, go and watch these games, because the whole purpose of giving you 3 games about each team is, you know what, go out, these are the games, if you're a big fan of the Colts or you're a big fan of the Titans or the Texans or whatever, these are the 3 games you really want to spotlight, even if you're not a fan of them. These are the games you're going to want to watch about these teams. These are the games you want to watch. I can't give you 3 games because I don't know if you want to watch Colts football this year.
If you want to maybe see close games, you'll watch Buffalo, maybe Washington, and the Jets. I don't know.
Maybe Miami, depending on if Adam Gase is really screwing the pooch down there in South Beach.
You just
get rid of all his veteran guys.
Even I know the Jets are bad, but the Jets are better than this.
You know what? I'm going to give you the 3 worst blowouts.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to give you the 3 worst blowouts of this.
All right, let's do
Week
it.
3 against Philly. Oof. They're in Philly.
Yeah,
it's just it's going to be disastrous. You talk about that rivalry between the Colts and the New England Patriots. That's not going to be close this year. And then both games. I'm giving you both games against Jacksonville should be blowouts.
I would not be surprised at Tom Brady drops more points in his own age in that game. He probably goes for 50. I've seen Tom Brady just pummel teams for good reason.
Was that game all those years back? Maybe it was 2013, 2012, where Tom Brady threw 5 touchdowns in 1 quarter. Yeah. That was against the Titans, I think.
Yeah.
Titans or the Bills? I don't know. They were wearing the AFL throwbacks. I remember that. It's the only thing I remember. But
I'm actually really curious. They play the Giants. I just want to see what Saquon Barkley and Odell could do.
Torch.
That would just be fun. Maybe
start the lighter. Start it now.
His first 200-yard game.
And I think the Giants are really going to be fighting for a spot that late if they can. I mean, obviously, I got them going 5-11, but.
Yeah, no, the Giants are good. I think I had the Giants going better. I think I had them 7-9 or something like that. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. But no, the Giants are a good team. But yeah, the Colts just look for the draft.
Yeah. Well, that's look for the draft. You're going to get the number 1 pick next year. So that's going to wrap up the AFC South. Obviously, pretty much the basis of this is expect Jacksonville to win again. Expect a really close contest between the Houston Texans and the Tennessee Titans, and don't expect much from the Colts.
Yeah, not much at all. But just wanted to throw us back out there. It's this is probably the first division that we covered where assuming Andrew Luck is healthy and is playing, the worst quarterback in the division's probably going to win the division.
And the best quarterback in the division is going to get a first-round pick next year. So, but that'll do it for us at Conn and the Stick. The next 2 weeks, we're going to wrap it up with the teams in the West. You're going to get our opinion, obviously, between the Coast race and the AFC West. We're going to talk a lot about the Rams. I got actually interesting things to say about the Rams and whether my opinion of the fact that they might be a one-hit wonder team. The collapse of the Seahawks is definitely something.
And the Jimmy G train.
The Jimmy G train. Also, if you listen to our podcast, stay tuned within the next couple of days or week, because we're going to start our professional wrestling portion of our podcast. SummerSlam's right around the corner. I know that that's something that you and me and friends in our friend group are really passionate about, so we want to get in there and we want to talk about it too as well.
Oh, certainly. Wrestling is something we all have loved for a very long time, and SummerSlam's certainly going to be a huge show. And we're all going to pray Brock finally drops that title.
Thank goodness. So that'll do it from us. From Nick Smith and myself, I'm Justin Connolly. We'll see you again next time.